Hey, everybody. Good to see you. We are live. This is the This Nomadic Idea show. Every Sunday night at 8 o'clock, Ariane and Scott combine. We talk about everything nomad, everything RV, everything outdoors, dust, good, bad. It's all going to be talked about here. If you want to catch the replay, you can watch the replay after our live show. We are actually live tonight on our YouTube channel, but you can always catch the replay on any of your podcatchers, Apple, Spotify, iHeart, all the podcatchers. So Tonight we have a pretty good show. We're going to talk about what the heck is being a nomad. What does that mean, being a nomad? Because that's a very loose term nowadays. Everyone's a nomad, and I would venture anybody who gets in the car to go any place nowadays is a nomad. But more importantly, we're going to review the Nomadland movie. We're going to talk a lot about that. We're going to talk about a new club that you can join. There's so much to talk about. But we're going to really get down in the Nomadland movie. Good, bad, was it depressing? Was it happy? Was it hopeful? Was it, oh dear God, I never want to live that life? We're going to tell you the truth about that movie, what we know to be true. And then we're going to talk about being a nomad, which is crazy because I don't even really know what I don't even really want to know. Do you know what a nomad is?
I do.
You do? Okay, here we go.
I know the technical term.
This is not a drill.
Repeat, this is not a drill.
Shall we begin? Let's begin. Shall we begin?
Welcome to This Nomadic Idea show, where we discuss the uncensored truth about living life full-time on the road. On today's show, we offer our own insights into the movie Nomadland, continuing the conversation of what it means to be nomadic and the differences in what freedom really feels like.
Yeah, so you can always download this show on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon, all your favorite podcatchers, or just watch the replay. And by the way, we are live. So if you have a question for Ariane and myself, or you just want to say hello, or you want to support the show, we're live. So just go into Super Chat and tell us who you are. I'm going to be answering comments. I've got comments going on right now. And yeah, we'll give you a shout out for sure on the show. The first thing we want to talk about before we get into the meat and potatoes of what we're going to talk about today is we're kind of like starting to venture off in different or on different platforms. One of the new platforms that we are going to have multi-weekly shows on is called the Clubhouse app. The Clubhouse app is a new app. So far, they've got close to 10 million people on that app.
10 million.
It is an audio only app, but it's like podcasting on steroids, but it's better than that. So we own a club. We've started a new club, and that club is called, I'm going to show it to you guys right now, Full-Time RV Living Club. Now, this club is part of a gigantic community on Clubhouse. And really what that is, it's actually full-time living .club. It's full-time RV living .club, not .com, not .org, not .net.
.club.
And we're going to tell you some more details exactly on how to get on there. So there's about 10 million people. I've been speaking on Clubhouse as a guest speaker for a hiking and backpacking show. And so we started this full-time RVing club. Let me tell you what it's about. It's a live audio discussion where like 200, 300, 400 people. Potentially.
Yes.
I've got high hopes. And they all share into a discussion one at a time. So you all get a chance to speak. You get to be on stage. You get to tell people who you are. Maybe do a little promotion here and there. but it's a great way for people to connect, and it is the best networking app I've seen. I'm highly excited about it. I think this is going to change the game. Twitter has already modified some of their way that you can interact with Twitter. Facebook, I think, is next. This is going to change the game in the new social media. It's audio centric, so you don't need a lot of bandwidth to listen in. And some of the influencers on this app will blow you away. Huge influencers, people that are taking money to teach people how to YouTube, on how to teach people how to podcast. They're on there. And a lot of times, if you can catch it, you get free advice. So we have started a club called fulltimervliving.club. If you want an invite, go to that website, send me an email, sign up for our email list, or message me personally on Facebook. Okay. The Messenger app is right there on the site. And let me know why you want to be in on the club, or would you like to be on the club? Would you like to talk on the club? It's invite only right now. It's invite only right now. It is going to open up at some point in time, but right now you've got to get an invite. So let me know. I will send you an invite, and then we'll go from there. So that's that. Very excited to be on Clubhouse. I think it's going to be revolutionary as far as social media goes. So. Having said that, we have a lot to talk about. So
yeah,
we've been talking a lot about, the nomadic lifestyle, being a nomad. What's it like being a nomad? Is the word nomad kind of overused? And so we start talking about it as, what defines a nomad?
Well, I think when the movie Nomadland came out, it really brought a conversation more forward to just about everybody, and really trying to redefine kind of what a nomad is. But let's face it, at the bare bones, a nomad is literally just a traveler. They don't have a fixed residence, and it's an individual who roams around, whether it's seasonally, which we've seen in our travels,
yep,
or whether it's somebody who just moves around within a territory. So at a very general statement, that's a lot of people out there, right?
It's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people. And it's very interesting because the word nomad has really been identified more in this upcoming culture that we've been a part of now for years and years and years. And not just us, our culture has really progressed the word nomad. But if you think about it, since the dawn of time, we've been nomadic. I mean, these are hunters and gatherers and people in trade that are trying to buy and sell trade. So we've been doing it forever, but not under the word nomad. So,
well, I mean, if you think back to earliest times, Native Americans were they were true nomads. They went, from place to place to place, depending on hunting grounds,
right,
depending on what tribe was kicking them out of their specific area.
Seasonal vegetation, you're talking about different plants.
And then you had pioneers, that, came out west without knowing exactly what to expect. They were nomads. So I think that, when we think back, it's kind of funny to think that,
that we've invented.
The millennials think they've invented the nomad term.
Well, they have.
On Instagram,
They have on social media for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that ever since that became part of this bigger culture, it really started to kind of shift the mindset, perhaps, of what is a nomad a positive word? Is it a word that people want to stay clear of? And I think with the Nomadland, the movie Nomadland that came out, it was a more geared focus on van lifers, and again, another coined term, but it was more directed towards van lifers and a very specific type of traveler, a very specific type of nomad. Although they did, if you watch that movie, they had transient culture mixed in. They had larger RVs, fit into that movie as well. And so they did overcompass this like broader spectrum of the word nomad, but really just tailor focused it within a certain van lifer.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so let's kind of get into the movie first, and then we'll kind of talk a little bit about what we have seen in our travels so far. So the Nomad movie was filmed in a couple different key locations that Ariane and I both know very well. One of them was in Quartzsite, Arizona, back in the Scot and Wash area. The other area was in Ehrenberg, Arizona, which is around the border of California and Arizona, right pretty much next to the Colorado River. And there's a huge part of the movie that's filmed in there. Ironically enough, that is where Bob Wells, who is in the movie, that's where he does the Rubber Tramp Rendezvous, and that's he's a van lifer, and so it was almost appropriate that movie was filmed there, and he is in the movie. Bob has done. We met Bob. Bob has been in the Airstream. Talked to Bob a lot earlier in December and in January. So we got to know him very well. I knew him from 2 years ago, but yeah, he loved the Airstream, by the way, so that was a good sign. And so we get a kind of a I don't know. We love the van life culture. In my opinion, the van life culture is a much more nomadic, true to the word nomad. If
less roots, I guess.
Yeah.
If you think about it, there's less rooting you, even though anybody that is on wheels is not necessarily rooted.
Right, correct, right, absolutely.
It has the ability to feel a little bit more rooted because you're not as defined as to where you can park.
Right.
So,
and I think in the movie,
like
the movie kind of came across at first, it was kind of like, wow, that, she's been kind of thrown into this homeless type situation and, is living in a van, which is so stinking stereotypical, but there's a point to that. And I think the director of this movie wants you to go there. I think the way this movie was directed, they want you to like feed into the stereotype, but then at the end of the movie, it kind of lets you figure out, no, that was a false. That not only was that false, but I think in the beginning of the movie, I don't even think she knew what to expect. Like, I think she was just living day by day in the van because she had to. And her husband had passed away. She lost her home. She lost her job. Which, in from what we've seen out here, that isn't that unnormal. That's pretty regular, I would think. Don't you think?
Yeah.
So I like in the beginning of the movie, there was this like, it's almost like, the sky is gray, it's cold. You've got this whole this whole like dark cloud literally in the movie hanging over you. And so it gives you like this sense of like that this kind of sucks for her. And it probably does in the beginning, but what I do love about the movie, it's the journey of that a metamorphosis that she goes through when she finds one thing. And what's the one thing that she finds? Community.
Yep.
Like-minded people. And she starts developing this sense of like, you know what? I may not be alone. I'm not alone in this gig. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people that I can relate to. And I thought that was a really beautiful part of the movie.
Well, so we had identified a lot of the early reviews were like, it's extremely depressing movie, and the end is just so sad, and it was hard to watch, and it is dark, it is gloomy, it is all of these things, and it does have this depressive feel. And I think that is part of the story is that it necessarily wasn't immediately by choice, and that circumstances were perhaps a burden to live that life. And so, yeah, it did start out with that. But what, in reading early reviews, what I anticipated is that it was going to be a sad movie going forward. And I felt like it was misrepresented in the original commentary of what it felt like, because what I actually felt throughout the whole movie was a lot of hope and a lot of freedom and I just kept identifying with it. And granted, we don't have a van, but here's a little secret: we almost ditched this for a van while we were on the road. And I felt I identified with it. I felt hopeful. I felt excited for her to have that freedom and that ability to like adjust and to move. And I think there's a big misrepresentation, and partly it was intentional, I think, from the filmmaker's choice to kind of portray it in that way, because in many ways for the main character, it was her only option. But I didn't resonate with the feeling of it being depressive.
Yeah, I never thought it was depressive at all. In fact, my takeaway from a large part of the movie was, making, lemonade out of lemons. And sometimes, you're trying so hard to make the best out of the situation, but it's really, you don't have to make the best out of the situation. You just have to realize that you are in the best of situation. And I think that she found where she thought one thing, mm-hmm. which was the stereotype of the nomadic life. It's very stereotypical.
Well, there's two stereotypes. There's this like magic Instagram worthy world of stereotypes
where all the women are in bikinis, hanging out of their van, and looking out into the sunset. Which is like, which make it just, like, oh God, that irritates me more than ever.
0.00003.
Yeah.
A couple times we've done something like that.
I have never put on a thong and got underneath on the back of the bed and taken my photograph in with the mountains, which I think is a green screen. But
then there is the other stereotype that that maybe it's not an option for others. And there is a very definitive number of people who it's not by choice, and then I think we're talking about those that are by choice now.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that the van life has moved into a direction that wasn't there 10 years ago, where now you have the ProMaster van. You can buy, $150,000 custom made vans that, as we know from trying to go into a campground one time, that they're like, oh, your vans aren't allowed. Well, I just saw the Mercedes-Benz van go in front of us, and like, well, yeah, that was,
factory built.
That was factory built that way. I'm like, what? So like we kind of get that, but I think the one really thing that I got out of the movie the most is that, she was dealt this hand. She's doing the best she can. And then she found this community. Through the community, she found that, well, wait a minute, maybe this isn't a bad life. Maybe this isn't a life I should be looking at as a obstacle. Maybe I should be looking at it as an opportunity. And the big takeaway I got from the movie, and I think we both agree on this, was that what you think is comfortable in your life and what you settle for, and what you think is the cookie cutter, white picket fence type of life that everyone tells you should have. I think at the end of the movie, she questions that. And I think at the end of the movie, she questioned, did she really have a good life? I mean, she's looking at her old house, and she's looking at it with like, I don't get it as fond memories. I get it as she's really questioning whether that life, having had experienced life on the road, having had found a community, having had people that are grateful for that life, I think she looks at it as like, I don't know if my life was that great. That's what I got out of it anyway.
I think that the beautiful thing about the movie is that it really does, it lended, in my experience, it lended to allowing what your preset notions of what you thought going in. It allowed you to kind of keep those and morph that throughout the entire movie. So like you took on a different approach than what I took on. So I experienced her returning back to her home base as kind of absorbing all of it. And I don't know that she was questioning if she really had. I think she was realizing that she was comfortable in something, and that through this life experience that she had just lended herself, partly by opportunity, partly by making decisions to up and root and move, and partly by being forced into it, that she realized the comfort level that she had back then, and that now she was very expansive in her thought process of going, well, there is more out there. Now, it may not all be comfortable. What I thought was beautiful, and when she was in Arizona and she was at the RTR gatherings and all of that, she did find a community. And if you look close enough, and this is every day, this is every person who identifies themselves as nomadic in whatever form, however much you want to be able to identify yourself as nomadic, is that every single person in this movie, every person in normal life out here with all of us, has a very different take on what it is to them. So you had people living in a van, and every single person did it entirely different than the next. And that's exactly what it is out here, is that there's this broad encompassing idea of being nomadic, and you're only a true nomad if you do this, or you have these little pockets of identification that you fit in within the nomadic life. Classifications. Yeah. But really, we're all nomadic. We're just in these different classifications, and I thought that was really beautiful to kind of watch that. It's a different journey for everybody, and I think it did nail that precisely. One of my other favorite parts is we as humans are kind of judgmental, let's face it, right? So one of my favorite parts is when she reconnected and she decided to take the journey, and I believe it was David was the interest. I wouldn't call it a love interest, but I think it was a one-sided love interest, and it was more of a comfort interest for her. And when she decided to then go and visit him after he had made roots with his family, and the look on her face when she sees his van in the field, and it's all covered up, and it had been neglected. Right. It was, you could just feel the judgment in her face, and you could feel, and she even said, like, what's up with your van? Like, there's a dead tire, a flat tire, and it had been, he had given up on it, and she immediately judged him for, like, and I thought that was a really powerful statement right there. And I think that's what we all are doing to each other. And that's the reality of what I kind of got out of this, is like, people are judging from the outside in, people are judging from the inside out, and people are judging from the inside within this little bubble of being nomadic. And I thought that was a really, really powerful scene in the movie, because that is what's happening on social media, and it is what's happening when we're identifying and talking to each other, all living this nomadic version of just being transportable.
Yeah, and I thought one of the big ironies of the movie, which was that, and this isn't told except for the very beginning of the movie, that she lost her job.
Right.
But what I thought was the irony of the movie is that the whole movie she spent working. So she
majority of the movie
she lost her job, right, and was kind of like forced, because she had a mortgage, she lost her house, she lost her husband, so she's in this van. But that life didn't stop her from working and making money. She goes to Amazon, she goes to the beet harvest in Montana. And so, and even in that environment, she's building a community. She's finding people that, that she knows, that she likes, that she trusts. And, I thought that was a big irony because, she's never not having a source of income being a nomad.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the other huge, gigantic stereotype is that, you would quit your job to go travel full time in a van or in an RV. How are you going to make money? Well, she did, and she did it losing her job, not wanting to lose her job. And so, there's a lot of opportunity out there. We just wrote a blog post on thisnomadicidea.com that talks about how you can make money as a full-time RVer or as a schoolie or as a van lifer. And we've listed all kinds of different ways that you can make money. And there are a lot of ways to make it. It may not be your, your 9-to-5 job. It may be a lot of different things to do that. She worked at, completely 2 different types of work environments, so, multiple types, right? Yeah. So, and if you guys are looking for ideas for nomad jobs, go to This Nomadic Idea and check out that blog post. But I thought that was a huge irony of the movie, was that she loses her job, but she never lost the opportunity for employment, and I thought that was key because she found one of her first friends. In that. So I thought that was a good part. I really I was very inspired by that movie because I saw a huge transformation in her. I thought one of my favorite scenes of the movie when she's floating on her back in the water, because that was, to me, it was like she's finding freedom, in this lifestyle, and she's finding this sense of purpose, and she's becoming okay with this lifestyle. And I thought it was a very freeing movie.
So let's talk about freedom for a second, because I think freedom is a term that is freedom is very complex because ultimately what we've learned in these almost 8 months is that freedom is truly a mindset. And I think that is really dictated out in this movie, because I know what it feels to not feel free. I thought I knew what a line between freedom and non-freedom is, but in reality, what I've learned by having the freedom that I seeked is that freedom really is it's really a space in your mind that you hold captive. Like you either chain yourself or you free yourself from it. And I think that was really well played in the movie, because some people, freedom is different to everybody, and it completely changes from one person to the next. And that was depicted really well in the movie as well. And for me, freedom was leaving this bound of a job, leaving this like one localized area, leaving all the things that thought I held me back from like moving forward in this like freeway. And yes, I've had endless amount of freedom, and we've had endless amount of freedom, and freedom has been at our fingertips. But at the same time, freedom is a state of mind, and that was really empowering to kind of like learn that way, but to see it. And I think that I felt like she gained so much freedom in that movie just because I've experienced I've experienced the thought of what I thought freedom was, to like actually like understanding that freedom is morphed into a mind play. And if we talk about the friend that she met who had passed away in the movie, and for her, freedom was being in a place that resonated with her, and that she didn't want to go the route of being tied down to medications and a hospital bed and all of these things. For her, freedom was this one place where she needed to feel the most free, and that was the most beautiful place that she could put her mind at ease. And it's so different to everybody what freedom is.
Well, the thing is, as far as personal speaking, is that when we left Atlanta, we had a free place to live. Okay, we were living in the facility that Ariane managed. We're making income. We didn't have we're not in debt. We're completely debt free. And so we really had it pretty good. Here's the problem, that we didn't want to be there, and we wanted to explore and do different things. And so it was even when you're not in debt, or you don't have a lot of financial obligations, and we still have to pay bills, we still have financial obligations, but it was like the people that you worked for was like, well, we're going to give you a bonus, but we're not going to give you a bonus now. And how much do you save? When is the end date to where you save to live this lifestyle? In our opinion, and what we have found out, that if you want to go tomorrow, then you should go tomorrow, and figure out, have a plan, and absolutely don't go out there thinking that you're going to make money while you're here, because that takes a long time to do. But have a plan, have a backup plan, but don't be slave to, I can't go because boom, or I'm going to wait until next year because of this, or maybe, traveling during a pandemic, I'll wait 2 years until it's over. The fact of the matter is, everything that we heard why you shouldn't go didn't come to be true. Okay, everything that we heard why we should not have left 8 months ago, none of it was true. As a matter of fact, most of what we've heard in 2021 about you'll never find a campground, you'll never find an RV park to go, you'll never be able to, has not been true either.
Well, yeah, they're fuller, but they're not full.
Yeah, they're fuller.
Fuller.
And so when you hear all these, other people panicking, oh, you'll never get a site, you got to, oh my God. Well, we have not yet. We have not seen that to be true. Now, if it becomes true, we'll tell you. But we have not seen that. We see a lot of opportunity right now for full-time and part-time work. I mean, a lot, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
So, if you want to come out and you want to work a little bit, travel a little bit, work a little bit, travel a little bit, which was depicted in the Nomadland movie, I think that life is still very real and still very, very possible to do.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I think nomadic, the term nomadic is not one blanketed statement. And I know that now. And I think that there's a perception of what you don't know in anything you do, anything you live, anything you react to. And that movie was no different. And I think as an outsider not living a life, you probably had a different perspective on that movie than if you were more connected to identifying yourself with something similar to what she experienced or anybody experienced in that movie. And it's not a blanketed statement. We're all nomads. We're all nomadic. I just thought that movie was really, really beautiful. And I think it lended to kind of opening up that exploration for others.
Yeah, I totally agree. We're going to take a couple questions. We are live on YouTube. If you're listening to our podcast on Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio. We did the show live on our YouTube channel, This Nomadic Idea. We do want to say, give a shout out to a few people that have joined us. Justin and Christina's RV Van Life. We've known those guys for a long time. They are a great group of people. We've got Bubba Bug. Hey, Bubba Bug, good to see you. I'm glad you're here. Michael Sullivan wrote a really good, he posted a really good comment. After watching both parents and my only sibling slip away in 3 different hospitals over the span of 24 years, I decided to sell the family home, retire a bit early, and get away from Groundhog Day. Absolutely. Ariane and I both have lost parents. We totally get that. And that's one of the reasons why we're out here. Life is short. Life is pretty short. So, Michael, thank you so much for commenting on that. Really super appreciate that. And you guys, thank you so much for coming in. I think the word nomad today is different than the word nomad was used years and years ago. I think it's different perspective. You now have the digital nomad, you have, the expat nomad, you have all these different words with the nomad in it. But I think down to its core, it's people that they're just going to travel and do their thing, and they're going to figure it out as they go.
The thing we've learned is that, and Michael pointed it out exactly the same thing, is that your perception of what you think you're going to experience is completely different than what you end up experiencing in the long run. And I think every single person that can identify as nomad, in whatever shape, form, bubble, rig, whatever you want to call it, I think that every single person probably has that thing. What they thought was going to happen in their experience has completely changed. And yes, I identify ourselves as nomad, but I also don't identify myself as the nomad that I thought we were going to be. And I think that is exactly what the movie nailed in.
Yeah, I think so too. And by the way, thank you, Michael, so much for supporting the show. Thank you. He said beer, spark plugs, whatever. I really appreciate that. Thank you for the $10. Really appreciate it for supporting the show. If you'd like to support the show, also you can go to thisnomadicidea.com and go to our podcast page, and there's a PayPal link up there, and you can support the show that way. Thank you guys so much for that. I really appreciate it. It's a different world out there. I loved the movie. I hope it wins an Academy Award. I think I think that once you get on the road and you have decided to live a minimal lifestyle, and van life is a minimal lifestyle, a travel trailer, however, a schoolie. We met a lot of schoolies, people at Schoolie Palooza. It's a different life, but it's an adaptable life to the point where you don't really miss all your crap at home. I mean, we come into the Airstream, and we have said this on more than one occasion. Wow, we really like our home, and we don't have much. And I think
we just keep getting rid of more.
We just had another purge, and I think the burden of not having that tie down and being able to travel, and if we both work part time and we find some part time gigs or full time gigs, and at some point in time we say, you know what, this isn't my gig anymore. This isn't my jive. I'm not really feeling the good vibe here anymore. I think I'm done. Well, you know what? We hitch up and we go. And that's the truth of it. And I think that is the freedom that we really value as if we're called nomads, if we're not called nomads, I don't really care, but it's that freedom. I think it's more of a free life that's possible.
I think it's becoming more widespread acceptance. And I think that's what snags so many people from even beginning is the fear of it not being an acceptable lifestyle. But when you're out here and you're with everybody else doing exactly the same thing as you are, just in a different way, just masked a little differently, I think you realize how widespread acceptance it actually is. Yep. And it's been incredibly freeing for us in ways that we never could have seen coming, and all the freedom ways that we thought we were going to get just kind of aren't important anymore. So it's interesting. It's
Yeah.
interesting how life morphs. And if anything, you know, in the show, she adapted. We all are adapting in different ways. And it's no different than life. You're just kind of figuring things out as you go and readjusting as you go. But the freedom it has allowed us has been
Absolutely.
has just been bigger than I think we could have ever anticipated. So it's been awesome.
We're going to be here next Sunday, 8 o'clock. Come by. We're not always live. We are going to be on Clubhouse in the full-time RVing club. If you're not a member of Clubhouse, go to full-time RVing. Go to www.fulltimervliving.club. Send me a message. I will send you an invite so you can come on and check that out. It's quite addicting. It'll blow you away. So if you want to come out, and we're looking for moderators, we're looking for people that can host rooms. It's a pretty exciting app. So go ahead and check that out. And we will see you next Sunday at 8 o'clock. See you guys later. Bye.
Bye.